Hey guys, Katie here, and I am bringing up the rear end. There's still a couple more videos left with the creative design team for June's collab, which is 7 ways to scrapbook outdoor photos. If you've already watched some of the videos, you know that we are each using this photo of us at the train tracks at Brandywine Falls. I've also pulled out some other photos, some 4x4, 4x6. I'll trim some down to 3x4s. But I'm just going to kind of use a sampling of photos on this layout. I've also pulled out one of my favorite stamps. It's of art and texture, and it's a lot like those background texture stamps from Close to My Heart that you've seen me use. And then I've also pulled out Changing Leaves. Now this hybrid is actually not available until July 1st, but I'm hoping I can show you some things to do with that so when it is available, you can grab it and start using. The paper I'm going to be using is the Lake Life, mainly these 3 patterns. It's heavily on the lake, but as you see on the sticker sheet, which also has a lot of lake titles, there's some other things I'm going to use. This great outdoor sticker, as well as some hearts, and maybe just some of those sentiments along the bottom. I've also pulled out 3 patterns from the Mix-In collection. This is another one of the Close to My Heart branded collections that Stampin' Up purchased, and I'm going to mix that with the Lake Life. You can see those patterns lend themselves really well to doing that. Now, also on this one, just to kind of make it easy, I am using the CDT 12x12 Volume 2 Sketchbook. Actually sketch on page 19. So if you have the sketchbook and you want to follow along, I've adapted it slightly, but for the most part, it stays intact. So I'm going to clean this off and then we can start cutting some papers. Now, while I have cut most of these off camera, I did want to show you what I am doing with some of the cardstock. Now this is pine. It comes with the coordinating cardstock for Lake Life. I am putting it into my trimmer and using the score blade and scoring at 1/4 inch and then moving it over and cutting at 1/2 inch. If you don't have the Stampin' Up paper trimmer, this will allow you to do that. Again, scoring and trimming. And you guessed it, because this is Close to My Heart cardstock, it has that white core. So I'm just going to sand over that score mark, and you can see that white core just pop through that cardstock. You'll see a close-up here in just a second, and I absolutely love this look, and I'm so glad that Stampin' Up is carrying some of the coordinating cardstock for these Close to My Heart collections, because they do have the white core that you can do this with. I'm going to finish this up and then clean that up with a lint roller. This is a super cheap lint roller. If you aren't new here, you have seen this many a times. If you are, you just roll it over your project as well as your surface and it picks up all that dust. Now, part of the hybrid is that the thin cut fits on the embossing. You'll flip it over where you can see the Stampin' Up logo. And then I am having to use some shims because I do have the Close to My Heart die cut machine, and I'm just going to run this through, and I want you to see that it die cuts and embosses all at the same time. Isn't that just wonderful? Again, this is Changing Leaves, and this will be available July 1st. Now, I'm also going to just die cut some acorn cardstock and some white cardstock, and those pieces I will be able to stamp. And that is one of the benefits of these hybrid embossing die cut stamps that Stampin' Up has, is you can do everything with these. So I'm going to punch that out and then put my die cut machine up. And then we can start with some of the assembly of this layout. I've pulled out my Versamat. Now I have gutted this sage base piece because I did use some of that cardstock for the leaves that I cut out. And then I have these strips. Now I am using my Versamat to line these strips up, and I'm just going to attach those edge to edge on my base, my prepared base. And then you will see what I'm going to do with these scored and sanded cardstock pieces. One thing about trimmers, even though they are meant to cut straight, inevitably I always mess up on one. So if you do have a border like these cardstock pieces, you can line those up edge to edge, and then it hides any slight imperfections in your cutting of those strips going up and down. Now I am going to go ahead and repeat this same process over on the right page. I do like to get my bases all adhered together before I start putting down photos and embellishments. And you can see this one came together much like the other one, lined all of those up and then capping those off with those sanded cardstock pieces so you can hide any imperfections in the measurements. Before I bring the left layout over, I am going to stamp some of these leaves. Now I have this maple leaf, or that's what I call it. I'm just going to ink that up in acorn ink and then stamp that off onto that acorn cardstock. And you can see it gives it a real nice tone-on-tone look. So I'm going to repeat that process on these larger leaves. Again, the acorn ink. And then just stamp those. Now that smallest leaf that you see there, even though that's die cut and it's not embossed, that actually doesn't have a coordinating stamp set. So I'm actually just going to use some of the patterns on the larger leaf to ink that up, just so it'll have some texture to it. You definitely could leave it plain, and I did do that on one of the, I believe it's the sage cardstock that I use here in just a second. So I'm just going to attach that on top of a scratch piece of cardstock, ink that up, and then that now has some ink and some texture to it. So here is that wonderful stamp set that I said that I loved, and it reminds me of some backgrounds. I'm using this one as well as some splatters. I'm using acorn ink and then sage ink. You can see where I kind of messed up on that right little swatch, but I will fix that in the end. And so that is all the inking on this left layout. I am going to go ahead and stamp this little bitty piece down at the bottom, and then I am going to go ahead and ink up these flowers. Now these pine cardstocks, I did go ahead and just use the sage ink so I wouldn't have to get any more out. And while I'm also doing the edges, I'm going to do some of the inking over the embossed texture. Now you can always add ink to your embossing folder and you'll get that same look, but I didn't want to bring out my embossing folder again. So you can see where I have the photos adhered down. These photos are adhered with 3D foam tape, and that's going to allow me to just trim some of these leaves and tuck those under that photo. Now I am using some dimensionals and then kind of just tucking those in behind, making sure that they look really organic. And then you can see that I am trimming those a whole lot. And that's what I love about these larger leaves. It allows you to trim them, make them smaller, really anything you want to do, just to kind of make sure that they fit in and around your photos. And then of course, don't go off the edge of my layout. Now a card, you definitely, those could go over the edge, but on a layout, you want it to stay within the confines of the 12 by 12 so it'll fit in your memory protector. This die cut also has these little dainty leaves. I absolutely love them. So I'm adhering those down with liquid adhesive. And I'm going to do pretty much the same thing for the right layout. I'm going to use that 5x7 photo, and then I am going to use this 3x4. Now I'm going to attach these two photos and then start playing with the leaves. And here in just a second, I'm going to realize that I forgot to stamp. I do that often. I would like to pretend that, you know, I'm a quote unquote professional and I do it all right, but I do not. Alas, I do not. And so right here is where I think, uh-oh, I better start stamping before I mess anything up. So I'm just going to tuck that kind of longer stamp over to the left of this layout using my removable labeling tape to make sure I don't get it on any of the paper pieces or the photos. I'm going to do that on the right side, and then again come in with that splatter and that sage ink. Now right now I'm not stamping very much. I will fill in with this splatter at the very end of this video, which is always good to do. When you have everything lined up, it's always good to come back in with some of those smaller stamped images as well as the smaller die cuts. And that way you can fill some of the spaces and it makes it look like it was meant to be. So you saw where I just tore those dainty leaves apart, and then I'm going to separate those and use those at the top left. And then I am going to go ahead and adhere some to the left of this photo. I'll end up trimming this one again, and then I'm also going to play with some of the leaves down around that 3x4 photo as well. Now again, this is where you can just kind of go crazy. You want to kind of mix not only the colors of cardstock, you could also cut these with some pattern paper if you want to. And then you also want to make sure that you just have the color groupings. So you can see where I have some of that acorn at the top left, and I'm also bringing it down to the bottom right. Same thing with that sage and the pine. So I'm going to attach that 3x3 photo, and then I am going to pull out this left layout and take a look at the sticker sheet. So again, something that I like to do is I like to embellish with stickers and then like gems and stuff all at the same time. And I also like to embellish those across both layouts if I'm doing a 2-page layout. So I've attached some of those stickers to my anti-static pouch, and what that's meant to do is remove some of the sticky from the back so I can use 3D foam tape or dimensionals. This little hexagon, half of it's going to go down at the bottom by that little stamped embellishment. I am going to use a sticker down there. I did attach some dimensionals to it, and that one says memories, I believe. And then I'm going to attach some dimensionals to this sticker. Now this sticker says good times, and that's going to go over that photo. And then I'm going to go ahead and attach the sticker that says day trip. And then just make sure that that is straight. And then I'm going to start working on the stickers for the right layout. Now there are these 4 little hearts. I love that. And I love putting stickers on photos. You can see just that blank space of this railroad track photo. It's a perfect spot for stickers. I am going to use a pop of yellow at the bottom left because I wanted that sticker that says Great Outdoors on that hexagon up at the top right. And so I wanted to pull some yellow over to the left layout so it made it look a little bit more cohesive. There is this little strip of arrows. I'm going to attach some 3D foam to the tail end of that and then attach some liquid adhesive on the part that actually is stuck to the hexagon. And those arrows are pointing to the left just to kind of help your eye go back to the center of the layout. Now here is where I'm telling you that I was going to fill in with some of that splatter stamped image, and that is just always super useful to do once you get all of your pieces together. There's this one little heart again in the crystal blue color, and I'm attaching a dimensional to it, and it's going to go between those two stickers. Now these embellishments, I absolutely love them. They have a texture to them. I'm hoping in the still shots at the end of this video you'll be able to see that kind of pattern that's on them. They come in clear and then kind of this bronze color. I'm using the bronze and I'm using the big and the little, just kind of sprinkling those around. And then there is where my stamp messed up. So I had this leaf that I cut. I'm going to attach that there and then go ahead and put some of these little gems right there. Here is a look at that layout. Again, the sanded and then the little clusters of leaves and stickers. And then of course, those pattern papers that just go so well with these photos. I will leave links down below to all of the products that I used if they are still available, as well as links down below to my creative design team friends. As part of the collab, we've all posted a video. You will see Chelsea and Andrea post here in just a little bit. Their take on this big, huge photo of us by the railroad tracks. Again, I use the 12x12 sketchbook. You'll find it linked below, as well as some videos that might be of interest to you. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching. I hope y'all have a wonderful week.